Um, so we're gonna go get into my humble opinion. Gonna talk about a couple of albums today. I said in the last episode I was going to talk about the Maher album, and I am. The stories I tell myself. And I want to say, with Maher, feed. If anyone has not seen that video of that guy that feeds the raccoons the hot dogs, it is adorable. I love it. And that's what Lisa's referring to in the chat here. But Maher, I have an interesting relationship with Maher, just with his music. I think Maher is like one of the best out there. That is like, he's got like a toe, he's got like a foot in mainstream Christian music. You know, all the stuff that like gets played on the radio, and he's got another foot in more of the alternative kind of sound. He is the one guy that I would say that is like so included, so seeped into the mainstream Christian scene, Christian music scene, that like I'm okay with. He's like sort of in there. His sound is like kind of in there where it's like radio friendly, but it's still like unique. I mean, that's what I like about him, is that he just sounds unique. Like you listen to his music and you know who it is, as opposed to like so many different Christian music, different Christian songs out there where you listen to it and you're like, I don't know who this is. This could be anyone. Other than Jeremy Camp, I guess he's pretty recognizable. But Maher has always like kind of towed the line between like a sort of like alternative folk country sound and like mainstream Christian sound, and he's good at it, and I really like it. You know, I'm not like the biggest fan of Maher, but like I'm okay with him. You know, if anyone came up to me and they're like, I like Mercy Me, I like Chris Tomlin, I like Maher. Okay, he's good. He's a good songwriter as well. So he's like one of the few out there that like his music is like always in the charts, but it's like good, in my opinion. And I wish that more people in the mainstream Christian music scene would follow his example. So the stories I tell myself, I mean, while I say all those things, there is like a part of me that it's like, I wish you would just like go all the way into like the alternative sound, but it's still, especially with this album, it's still, some of it is a little overproduced, and a little shiny, and I kind of wish that it sounded a little bit more dirty, you know, not like with lyricism, I mean with like the sound. I wish he would go like all the way into like the alternative country, but he's still got to kind of keep his foot in the, you know, the more mainstream kind of sound, which, you know, whatever. I still don't hate it. I still like it. I think that the stories I tell myself is a little too long. It's got a lot of extra tracks in there. It's got some tracks. It's got some live tracks in there. I'm sorry, I keep getting a frog in my throat. And some of the songs are just like live versions of songs that are already on the album. And it's like, why? Like, why not have that be as like if he released a deluxe version of the album, that would make sense to have live versions of the songs that are already on the album. But especially, he decides to keep both of them in. Not all of them. There are some live songs that are just their own song. And I like that approach. I kind of wish that the whole album was like that, because I realized that I liked the production on the live versions better than the studio versions. Like, the studio versions aren't bad, but I kind of liked the DIY kind of live feel of the live songs. And it's not like they're live concert songs. They're more just like live studio, if that makes any sense. And I just kind of tended to like those better and wish that the whole album was just made like that. And just be, because there are a lot of albums that I really love that, I find out later that it's like, oh yeah, these songs were recorded in one take live in the studio. Agent Serenity says, perhaps we should add an album cover ranking. This one is pretty unique. Yeah, I do like it. He's just, with Matt just kind of in the middle and it's got a really cool background there. Yeah, I have a lot I do appreciate a good album cover. So that'd be cool. I did a video like years ago of like bad, awkward album covers, Christian album covers, and that was fun. But like to talk about, good Christian album covers, that would be interesting. That would suck for all the audio listeners, but, whatever. You should be watching the video version anyway, but either way, I don't care. So, yeah, Stories I Tell Myself is not bad. I wish it was trimmed down, and I wish that the live versions were picked over the studio versions, and I just wish the whole album was live. But I do really appreciate Matt Maher's songwriting. A lot of the songs are really catchy and really memorable. They're not like, just milquetoast Christian songs that are forgettable. I will say that there's one song that I kind of had a problem with, more on a theological sense, and it's called Common Ground, and it's one of the singles from the album, and it kind of veers on the edge of like critical race theory and such, where it's kind of obvious that it's talking about racial issues because he's singing with this other singer who's African American, and they're talking about unity and being together in common ground, and that's all well and good, but when you go further into the lyrics, it's like your definition of common ground is a little different than mine, because it's kind of teetering on that with that narrative of like, oh, common ground means that you need to compromise what you believe in to believe what I believe, so it kind of seems like that. So, but others, I do agree with the sentiment of finding common ground with each other and, finding unity, even if we believe different things. But some of the verses are just like, that's kind of what they seem like, where it's like, no, you need to agree with what I agree with because that's the right thing. So that's just kind of the vibe that I got from it. Otherwise, the songs are pretty good. And, like I said, I've always appreciated Matt Maher's songwriting. I think he's one of the best out there when it comes to Christian mainstream music. So yeah, I recommend The Stories I Tell Myself even with the issues that I have with it. It's still solid. I give it like somewhere between a 6 or a 7 out of 10. So, The Stories I Tell Myself, Matt Maher. If you're going to listen to any mainstream Christian music, listen to him. And also, we've been building up to this moment for a while on this show. Caedmon's Call, their remake of their self-titled album, is finally out. Oh, before we get to that, Agent Serenity says, I'm going to share something the Lord gave me when I was struggling with the race issue. If you see your race as a higher status than another, you display the same pride that the devil did when he viewed himself as higher than all of God's creation. Oh yeah, I agree with that. Absolutely. I hope people realize that, while I have issues with critical race theory and such, that doesn't mean that I agree with racism or anything, or that I, that I don't think that racism exists. There's a whole issue. If you want to know like my actual opinions on the whole racial topic, you can read Fault Lines Fault Lines by Vody Bakum Jr. But that's what singers should be singing. Yes, I agree. I think racism is, something that we can talk about. I just don't believe in like institutional racism. I don't think that that's really a thing in our country. And it's also a matter of like the things going on with like shootings and such. I think a lot of it is a little inflated beyond what's actually true. So, and just critical race theory in general is, a lot of it is just very anti-gospel, where when you go deep down into it, it's like there's a lot of Christian critical race theorists that are like, you need to get rid of all of your whiteness in order to be a real Christian, and all. It's just weird philosophical stuff. So, but yeah, I agree with you. Anyways, Caedmon's Call. See, this is what happens in my reviews, is that I can't just simply review an album. I have to like get into like my whole theological views, and yeah. Anyways, Caedmon's Call, self-titled remake, 2022 version of their 97 debut album, and it's out. And they had a whole campaign for it, like a Kickstarter campaign, and it finally came out. I've reviewed some of the singles, and it's pretty good. And I think that the album is pretty good. I haven't listened to the original album in a while. There are a few tracks that are available on YouTube, but it's impossible to find, and it's hard to like compare the whole album to the original, since I don't own it currently. I used to have it, and then I lost it on a computer that I just don't have anymore. So, but from my memory, a lot of the remakes are really solid, and they have a fresh new sound to them. There are some tracks on this album where I'm like, I feel like I prefer the way that they did it on the original album. But that's not to say that any of it is bad. Specifically, I think Stupid Kid, I liked the original way that they did it on the original album. They kind of approached it a little differently on this album. The original track of Stupid Kid had like more of a quirky kind of sound to it. And this one has a little bit more of a rock version, a rock approach to it. But still, there's still some tracks on here that really shine out, specifically a lot of the Derek Webb tracks, like the Derek Webb written ones, like Center Aisle is still strong, and Standing Up for Nothing, and Not the Land. I think there's something about the production of Not the Land that I preferred the original over, but yeah. So I think if you're a fan of the original album, that you're going to like this album, but it's hard not to compare the two. And in all honesty, Derek Webb's voice has changed. Not to say that it's like worse or better or anything, but Derek Webb definitely had some like more, a different kind of, it sounded a little different. I don't know how to explain it, but like a little bit maybe more of a twang back in the day. And I think he just kind of had a little bit more oomph to his voice back in the day. So there are some parts of this album where it's like, I kind of liked how his voice sounded in the original better, because he kind of just had some more power to it. But he still sounds good. And with all my problems with his faith, aside, it's fine. I mean, he definitely was he was a Christian when he wrote these songs. So that's the other thing, is that there are a couple new tracks on this album. So it's not entirely a remake of the original album. There's some new tracks on here. And there's a acapella song called I Will Sing. That's more of kind of like an intro to the the Rich Mullins cover, Hope to Carry On. And it's good. But there's another, man, I can't remember the name of it. There's a final track that they added to the album, April Showers. And I gotta say, I didn't like that song. It's like they took the, the Rain Rain Go Away and they made that the chorus, but just with a few lyrical tweaks to it. And I just kind of found it annoying. I didn't think it was that great. I felt like, it's been so long that they could have put a little bit more effort into making a better songs. Agent Serenity, that sounds like cringe incarnate, LOL. It was kind of cringe, honestly. The rest of the album is pretty solid, but that final track is like, why? So I don't really understand the point of it, but either way, I was very happy to hear some returns to my favorite songs like Bus Driver and I Just Don't Want Coffee. And those still sound good. I actually even said, I think this Bus Driver version is better than the original, I think. So, and I Just Don't Want Coffee, which is my actual favorite one, is really good still. So, some great songwriting that was from the '97 version, and that's not changed in this album except for that one bonus track. But yeah, so if you're a fan of Caedmon's Call, and if you, especially if you liked the self-titled album, check it out for sure. I recommend it. I kind of also just wish that they would just remaster the original and release that as well, because like you can't find it anywhere. It's not on any streaming or anything, and the whole album isn't even on YouTube. You could probably buy the CD like on eBay or something, but yeah, it's like really hard to find. So for people who want the original, I think that they should just release it. They should release them like a remastered version or something. I don't know if they even have access to it. Maybe they don't. Maybe it's like a label thing, but anyways. So yeah, that is my humble opinion.
Hey, so I don't know if you guys know this, but what you just watched was basically just a clip of a full podcast episode of my podcast, The I'm Clifford Today Show. So you should just go check out that whole episode. Also, while you're at it, you might as well like the video and subscribe to my channel. That'd be really nice. I mean, you're nice people, right? Okay.